Hi, we made a little tweak to the finance system and we did it very quickly. So I'm going to make a short video about this and just tell you exactly what happened. So what I have here is I'm logged in as a site lead, or maybe a multi-site admin, but for all intents and purposes, that's the same thing. And I'm logged in as an admin just so you can see how the thing is going to interact as we add a purchase request to the queue and move it around. So I will go here to my finance. I'm going to pick this school. I'm in my test system, so even though I picked A.L. Connor, it's not going to matter, although it will be a little slower because I'm off site right now. And there we go. This should all look familiar. So I'll go here to my admin page, or sorry, my admin browser window, and I'll go here and I'll go to my A.L. Connor there. And we should be seeing basically the same thing, except I'm an admin here. Okay. So here's what was happening. When we were doing the notes, so where you go and edit notes. Well, first of all, I'm here as a site admin and they didn't have access to this. So now they do, but it's a little more complicated than that. So what was happening is we were just treating notes as notes. So if I go in here and I modify a purchase request, and by the way, I should mention all this flashing stuff, when we move to the new system, it's not going to be all flashy like that. Every time I do something, the page refreshes and it's kind of annoying. When we go to the new system, you're not going to have all that. It's just going to kind of work and not you refresh the page every time. So anyway, if I go down here to the bottom of a purchase request, I can add notes, right? So I just put in there, some random notes and I click save and exit or submit or whatever I'm trying to do. And it goes back to the previous page and I have those notes in there. Okay, so then when I submit this and you guys edit notes, when you guys edit those notes, those are the same notes that are in the purchase request, which is a little bit weird. We were kind of using notes for one thing and they're really separate. So what's happening now, let me add a new one just so we can follow this along. So there's my new one. You notice again, the page flashed and then everything has to refresh. And it's really annoying, so that won't happen in the future. But I have a new one here. And so I can edit notes here, but those are different than the notes that are on the purchase request page. So we have to change our terminology a little bit. So instead of just saying notes, when we're moving purchase requests and purchase orders in these swim lanes, we're gonna call those workflow notes. And when we're editing a purchase request and we're adding notes to the bottom, we're gonna call those purchase request notes, okay? And they're gonna be completely separate. So let me show you an example. I'm gonna type some random stuff in here. I'll add an authorized user. I'll pick a new vendor just so we can follow this around. So I'm going to say it's whatever that is, and Schutz, whatever that is. And then I will just add some information. So let's say this was $100. I go there and I know some of these things are required. So I'm just going to type some garbage. And then a signature and then the principal signature, however they got it. And I have to put some budget. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to do this budget, and I'll put all the money in there just like you normally would. Oops, I'm gonna go like that. And there you go. Now I'm gonna put some notes, and the notes I'm gonna put are just, okay, so I used 21001 because of reasons, okay? And that is their message to you, why they did something on this. Again, it's gonna be different than the workflow notes, and I'll show you how. So I go back here, I'm gonna go save and exit. I'm not gonna submit yet. Okay, and those are the notes for the purchase request. So if I go here and I can't print, yes, I can print it. So now if I print it, those notes that they typed in there are gonna follow this thing around. So there it is, I pop it up. It's the same thing that you experienced before, but now those notes are there. And when they send this to you and you modify the notes, it's not gonna wipe those out like it used to. So what used to happen is in fact, let me do it here. I'm going to submit. Error in submission. Okay, so the system's letting me, you notice it flashed and it's really annoying. So again, we'll work on that. So let me go here and edit. And apparently I don't know my budgets for this fake school. So why don't I just modify that? I'm going to put in a budget that I know has money. And then I click save. And then from here, I'll just submit. And then it should let me. Okay, and so there it is, right? And so what's gonna happen is now it's off to you and they can't modify it anymore. They can print and copy it, but we added they have the option, they didn't have the option to view the purchase request history in the past or to edit notes, and now they can edit notes if they want, okay? So, and they can do it here as well, and those notes again are not gonna wipe out the purchase request notes. So let me just go over here to my admin page, and I'll have to refresh the page because that happened while I was on this page. And so you have it there, and it was sent to you, and you can reject it and whatnot. And you'll notice that their purchase request notes are there. I put the purchase request notes there because I thought they'd be useful, but we don't have to have that because we're also going to have different notes. And so let me just go ahead and reject this really quick because these are the workflow notes. So rejected for reasons. Okay, so I reject that, and it gets sent back to them. Okay. And it says rejected for reasons, and they have that. So I just want to show you that when I go over here on the site lead, I log back in or whatever I do, and I come here and it was rejected, and they know why it was rejected. But again, if I go here to edit it, the purchase request notes are still there. They get to keep those, okay? In the workflow notes, that's still there. They can even edit those notes, okay? And they can also view the purchase request history, and whenever you move something around, like it gets rejected or it gets moved on to the next swim lane or whatever, that is recorded in the purchase request history. So you'll notice it was rejected for reasons, okay? So what they could do is they could fix whatever they had to fix. Let's say they went in and edited. I'm not going to do that now. They edited it, and then they said, okay, I'm going to resubmit, but let me just modify some notes. Say, okay, resubmitted, fixed, error, blah, blah. They click save. They, see, again, that little flash thing is really annoying me, and I'm going to get rid of it in the future, so don't worry. And then they're going to resubmit it. And there it is. Right? This is still the purchase request notes, not the workflow notes. So let me go back here to what you guys would be seeing again. And you're there, and you log back in, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to click that. And you log back in, or maybe you went to another site and came back. As long as the page refreshes, you have that again. So now you still have the purchase request notes. Whenever you hover over these, it'll tell you what the current workflow notes are, but they're also here when you go to edit notes, so you could still edit it. And they're here when you're going into view PR history, right? So we first submitted that and there was no notes. Then you rejected it and it said rejected, and then they resubmitted it and added their own notes. And every time you add notes, as long as it's moving between two different swim lanes or two different states, like submitted and pending and whatnot, it'll record that. Now, if I don't do anything to it, it won't record it. So let's say I go here and I say, well, I'm going to edit these notes and I'm getting ready to submit to finance. And I say, okay, submitting to finance, or whatever note you want to put in there. And I click save. Those notes are saved. I know because I can roll over this and see it. But you'll notice if I go to my view PR history, it's not there, at least not yet. That only gets recorded when you actually do something like reject or send it through. So if I went ahead and did submit to finance, it now goes from submitted to pending. Those notes are still there, and that gets recorded in the PR history. Okay, so you'll notice that my notes are there, and it's going to keep a log of the notes. Now, the reason I started this video with saying that this was kind of a last minute thing is that's really not the way we want to do it going forward. That's going to work for now, and you can communicate with your site leads. But really what I have on my list, aside from getting rid of all this flashing and updating this, is, let me pull up a screenshot here. What it really should be is when we go to edit notes, instead of just being like this little blank thing that anybody can wipe out, what it's going to be is something like this. Now, it won't have our picture. Well, I guess it could have our pictures, but it won't have our pictures unless you guys want me to add pictures or something. But you can imagine that somebody add notes and it just says, okay, this is the user that added it, what time or whatever, and then you can respond, and then they can respond and whatnot. And then it's just a log of everything, every communication that happened without having to do this whole thing where I edit notes or whatever. They'll just, they can go to add a note or view the note history, and then it's more like a chat than anything else. And that way you can talk back and forth. So that's where we're headed. But for right now, what I was asked to do is make sure that this purchase request history documents, I picked one that didn't have any, that this purchase request history documents all the communication that was happening. Because I think it wasn't before. It was only keeping certain things. So now it's going to do that. And then as I was modifying it, I just realized that we needed to differentiate between the workflow notes that we've been looking at and the purchase request notes, because now this gets to stay with the purchase request. If it was some note about, some weird thing that happened on this one or something you need to keep track of, that doesn't get wiped out anymore. Okay. So, and then of course the other change was if I'm over here as a site lead, I can still see the notes, I can edit notes, and they didn't have the access to view the purchase request history, and now they can, no matter where it's at. So if I went, if I was finance, where is it at? We submitted to finance, let's say it was approved, and I don't think I have let's find a nice file here, something called new test. Okay, and then I go approve, and there you go, now it's there. Now the notes stay the same. I could have added the notes, or I could have wiped them out if I wanted to, but the notes kind of stay there. And then at the site level, let's say they saw it moving, but they didn't know if there were any notes or anything like that. Let's say they logged in, they came here, they can see the notes by going there, or they can view the purchase request history, and just exactly what you think is supposed to happen. It's a log of everything that happened, and wherever it's at on in terms of the queue, or whatever swim lane it's in, they're going to be able to view that. I think they don't get to, I guess they even do. So I set it so that at any point, even when it's closed, they can edit notes and view the PR history, but obviously they can't edit the purchase request. So I hope that's helpful. If you have anything else that you think should be tweaked that isn't on my list already, I have some time set aside next week to actually really work on this and do all the things that we asked, but this kind of needed to be done by this weekend. So it was the quick and dirty solution. We will make it better. Thank you.